Have you ever wondered why the avoidant didn't miss you when you stayed but started missing you the moment you left? This is one of the most confusing and painful experiences for anyone who has loved an avoidant partner. You were there. You were patient. You were understanding. And yet, they felt distant, cold, unavailable. But the moment you stopped reaching out, the moment you chose yourself suddenly, they felt it. Today, I want to explain why avoidants miss you when you leave, and why this has very little to do with games, and everything to do with their nervous system. Avoidants don't experience closeness the way secure people do. For them, intimacy doesn't automatically register as comfort. It registers as threat. When you're close, consistent, emotionally available, their nervous system becomes overstimulated. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because closeness activates old memories of being overwhelmed, controlled, or emotionally invaded. So when you stay, they go numb. They disconnect. They pull back. Not because they don't care, but because caring feels like losing control. Here is the paradox. Avoidants don't miss you in connection. They miss you in absence. When you leave, the pressure disappears. The expectation disappears. The emotional demand disappears. And for the first time, their nervous system can relax. That's when feelings they've been suppressing finally surface. This is why avoidants often say things like, "I didn't realize how much you meant to me until you were gone." It's not manipulation. It's delayed emotional access. Your presence asks something of them. Even if you never demanded anything, your presence reflects intimacy. Your presence reflects attachment. Your presence reflects vulnerability. But your absence asks nothing. And in that safety, their heart finally opens, quietly, internally, painfully. They replay moments. They remember your tone, your care, your warmth. Not because you chased them, but because you stopped. Avoidants often associate love with loss. They don't fully feel attachment until it's at risk of disappearing. So when you leave, the loss triggers awareness. Not commitment, yet awareness. They begin to feel what they couldn't feel while you were still emotionally available. This is why avoidants often reach out after silence, not during conflict, not during closeness, but during stillness. Here is the part most people struggle to accept. Avoidance missing you does not mean they are ready to change. Missing is not the same as choosing. Awareness is not the same as availability. They miss you because your absence feels safe enough for emotion to surface. But unless they do the inner work, they will repeat the same pattern the moment closeness returns. This is why your power is not in making them miss you. Your power is in not abandoning yourself. Again, just because they finally feel something. If you're listening to this right now, and you've left, or you're rethinking about leaving, know this. You didn't lose them. You stopped losing yourself. And that shift is what made them feel you in the first place. So now they miss you. They feel the absence. They think about you in ways they never allowed themselves to before. But the real question is, what happens next? Because missing you is only the beginning, not the ending. Most people hope for. The first thing that happens after an avoidant starts missing you is internal awareness, not movement. They feel, but they don't act. They sit with emotions they once suppressed, longing, regret, curiosity, even fear. But awareness doesn't automatically translate into change. For avoidants, it often stays trapped inside. They may think about texting you, but stop themselves. They may open your chat, then close it. Because wanting connection and tolerating vulnerability are two very different things. Now the nervous system splits in two directions. One part says, "I miss them. I feel connected. I don't want to lose this." The other part says, "If I go back, I'll lose myself again." This is where avoidants suffer the most, not because of you, but because of their own internal conflict. They want closeness, but closeness feels unsafe. So instead of choosing you, they hesitate. And hesitation can look like silence, confusion, or sending mixed signals. If the emotional tension grows strong enough, they may begin to test the connection, without fully entering it. This can look like a casual message, a reaction to your story. A "Hey, how are you?" with no depth, not because they don't care, but because they're afraid to open the door all the way. They're checking. Is it safe? Will I lose control? Are they still emotionally there for me? This is not commitment. It's emotional reconnaissance. Here's the moment that truly matters, and most people miss it. What determines what happens next is not what the avoidant does. It's what you do. If you rush back emotionally, explain yourself, reassert team, or abandon your boundaries, the avoidance nervous system relaxes too quickly, and once it relaxes, the fear of closeness returns. The cycle resets. But if you remain grounded, calm, present, without chasing, something very different happens. When you don't collapse back into overgiving, the avoidant feels something unfamiliar. Respect. They feel the shift in your energy. You're no longer trying to earn connection. You're not asking to be chosen. And this forces them into a choice they've avoided their entire life. Step forward consciously or step away permanently. This is the fork in the road. There are only two outcomes after this point. Outcome 1. They retreat again. Not because they don't care, but because they're not ready. And if this happens, your peace remains intact. You didn't lose yourself again. Outcome 2. They come back differently. Slower. More intentional. More honest. Not dramatic. Not overwhelming. But grounded. This is the only return that matters. Your silence was never meant to teach them a lesson. It wasn't a strategy. It wasn't punishment. It was alignment. It was you saying, I want to keep bleeding emotionally just to keep someone comfortable. And that decision is what changed the entire dynamic. Not because they missed you, but because you finally stopped chasing a version of love that cost you your self-respect. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear, but need to. Avoidants don't change because they miss you. They change only if they are willing to face themselves. Your job was never to wait for that. Your job was to come home to yourself. If they meet you there, beautiful. If they don't, you still win. Because you no longer confuse love with longing or attachment with pain. You didn't leave to make them miss you. You left because staying was costing you your peace. And whatever happens next, you're no longer abandoning yourself to find out.